أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome. Today, I'd like for us to explore two really profound verses from the Quran. They speak directly to one of the most explosive human emotions we can feel, that overwhelming demand for justice when a life has been taken. We're going to look at how divine wisdom steps in, not to fuel our vengeance, but to actually structure it, and in doing so to preserve life itself.
And this quote really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? When we're wronged, I mean really wronged in a profound way, our sense of justice can so easily curdle into something else entirely. It becomes this raw, destructive fury that just borrows the language of morality to make itself sound righteous. And it's right into this dangerous human space that the Quran steps in, offering a divine structure.
You see, the taking of a life, it's never just about individual grief, is it? It's something that can destabilize entire societies. That pain just spills outward, and it becomes this thirst for retaliation that can ignite these awful cycles of violence, sometimes for generations. And this is the chaos that these verses are speaking to, directly.
So it's so important to understand this from the get-go. The Quranic guidance we're about to look at is not a call for more bloodshed, not at all. It's the exact opposite. It's a divine intervention designed to break that destructive cycle, to provide a clear limit, and ultimately to protect the whole community from tearing itself apart.
Okay, so let's dive into this. We're going to start with the outer, the societal solution first. The verses prescribe something called qisas, and you can think of this as the legal and social framework that's designed to contain that fire of revenge.
Now, the root of this word, qisas, is really interesting. It's all about tracing a track, about following something exactly. So what it means is equivalence, proportion. It's about establishing a firm, clear limit. The harm you inflict in return, well, it simply cannot exceed the harm you received. And you have to understand, this concept was absolutely revolutionary for justice.
And I mean, you can just see the difference laid out so clearly here. On one side, you have unrestrained tribal revenge, which just leads to escalation, and these endless, tragic cycles of violence fueled by pure emotion. But qisas, it offers equivalence. It offers a definitive end to the violence. It replaces that emotional fury with a real moral architecture. It's a system that's designed not to destroy life, but to preserve it by containing our worst impulses.
But here's the crucial point. This isn't just some cold, rigid law. The whole thing is framed as a mercy from God. And this is just so beautifully illustrated by the fact that even in the context of murder, the Quran refers to the offender as his brother. Think about that. Justice is demanded, for sure, but their shared humanity is never erased. And this is what keeps the door open for pardon, for compensation, for a path towards healing.
All right, so this is where we make a turn inward. If the outer law, qisas, is designed to restrain society from spiraling into violence, then what's meant to restrain that anger that burns inside of us? This is where we get to the inner, or the batin, meaning of these verses.
And this question, it really takes us out of the courtroom and right into our own hearts. It's asking us to apply that exact same principle of qisas, that principle of exact proportion and having a limit, not to others, but to our own inner reactions.
You know, the Sufi masters, they understood this so deeply. They knew that the ego, our nafs, when it's wounded, it doesn't actually want simple justice. No, it wants victory. It wants to restore its own feeling of superiority. And as the great scholar al-Baqarah pointed out, if we don't practice holding ourselves to a precise account, we will always demand more than what's fair from other people.
So let's look at this a little closer, at this idea of life within the limit, and see what we can learn from the wisdom of the masters.
I mean, think about it. When we're wronged, our ego immediately starts to edit the story, doesn't it? It magnifies the harm done to us. It minimizes any part we might have played, and it frames us as the perfect, innocent victim. Inner qisas is the spiritual discipline of just refusing to believe that exaggerated story. And what's so fascinating here is how Imam al-Ghazali diagnoses this subtle shift. He warns us that our anger so often starts from a genuinely noble place, a zeal for what's right. But if we're not vigilant, it so quickly becomes a zeal for oneself, a defense of our own ego. The Quran says equal, but our ego whispers, no, hurt them deeper.
Remember how the Quran says, "And in qisas there is life for you"? Well, the spiritual master Saul al-Tustari had this incredible insight into that.
He understood it to mean that life literally returns to our own hearts when we accept the limit. When we finally let go of that unchecked resentment and we stop replaying the injury over and over in our minds, we stop suffocating our own souls. By choosing the limit, we allow something inside of us to become steady and balanced and alive again.
And this idea just brilliantly illustrates Ibn Arabi's view that this principle of balance is literally woven into the fabric of existence itself. He taught that the harmony of the entire cosmos depends on proportion, on measure. So when we respond with excess, with more harm than we received, we don't just create an external imbalance, we actually distort our own spiritual form. Justice is what restores our symmetry.
Okay, so let's see how all of this builds into a really practical spiritual path. Because the verse itself, it points us upward. It starts with a foundation of justice, but it gestures towards something even higher. It's not just a flat choice between revenge and forgiveness. It's more like a ladder.
So the first step, the absolute foundation, is justice, qisas. And that is your right. But the Quran encourages us to climb higher. The next step up is pardon, or afu. This is where you release your right for the sake of mercy. And then the highest station, that's ihsan, or spiritual beauty. And that's not just forgiving the harm, it's actively responding to it with goodness. But here's the key. You can't just leap to the top. You have to first have a deep respect for the foundation of justice.
So what's the takeaway here? Let's just bring this into a moment of personal reflection. Because this isn't about some high-level legal theory, right? It's about those everyday moments when you feel slighted or insulted or betrayed. In that moment, if we can be honest with ourselves, what are we really looking for? A fair resolution, or are we looking to win?
And when you feel that heat of anger rising in your chest, what's the secret desire of your heart? Is it truly to restore balance, or is it to find that little bit of satisfaction that comes from knowing you've landed a heavier blow? You see, the path of inner qisas is that constant, moment-by-moment choice for proportion over satisfaction. Let's end with this prayer. O Lord of justice and mercy, please protect us from excess when we are wounded, teach us the balance that preserves life, and the mercy that heals it. Amen. In this is life. There truly is life in this restraint, and may we all find the strength to choose that limit, and in doing so find the true life that the Quran promises us. This explainer was compiled with gratitude by me, Mir Ali Shah, just a fellow seeker sharing through the Living the Wisdom of the Quran podcast, and we ask God for His acceptance and for His forgiveness for any errors at all, especially for any mispronunciations that might happen because of the AI narration. Thank you so much for listening.